Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Surrounded by Bourbon with me, Phil Crawford, aka Causeway Whiskey. This is episode 37 and today we are looking at Kilkerran 12-year-old Campbeltown Single Malt. So Kilkerran has played a pretty interesting part in the regionality of Scotch whisky. Campbeltown was once known as the whisky capital of the world and had over 30 distilleries. But yet by the late 1990s there were but two. There was Glengyle and there was Springbank. And as such, in the early 2000s, the Scotch Whisky Association was actually considering revoking Campbeltown's status as a region of Scotch whisky. So step in the owner of Springbank Distillery, Mr. Hedley Wright. He pointed out that the Lowland region only had 3 distilleries, and he asked if Campbeltown had 3 distilleries, could it keep its status as a region? So logic prevailed, the answer was yes, and Mr. Wright went and bought the old mothballed Glengyle distillery with the Mitchell's Glengyle company, and then spent the next 4 years repairing and restoring that distillery. The stills themselves came from the mothballed Ben Wyvis distillery, and they were refurbished by the production manager of the time, Frank McHardy, to produce a light, fruity style of distillate that Kilkerran have become quite famous for now. So production began in 2004, and by 2007 they actually released their first whisky, which was a 3-year-old. We then had to wait until 2009 when we saw the release of the Work in Progress series, of which there were 7 releases, and they led up to the release in 2016 of the 12-year-old Edge Statement as a core release product, and it has been part of the core expression or the core range ever since. Now, the entire process at Glengyle is very much Springbank-like. It is very hands-on. Everything is done by hands, including bottling, labelling, all that sort of stuff. And even the distillation, there's no computers. We're back to the old-fashioned ways of using your nose, using your palate to see when the cut should be made and so on. So all good on that front. The malt itself is a lightly peated malt, so it's peated to around 15 parts per million. Fermentation time at Kilkerran is anywhere between 72 hours to 110. So obviously longer fermentation, you're looking at, well, that basically equals more flavour in the distillate, and the whisky itself is double distilled. Now you may wonder, if the single malt is called Kilkerran and the distillery is called Glengyle, then why is this not Glengyle Single Malt? Well, that is because the original Glengyle distillery was built in 1872, but it closed in 1925, and the name was then acquired by the Loch Lomond Group for their Glengyle vatted malt, and is that way until this day. The Kilkerran name then comes from the Gaelic of where St. Kieran had his religious settlement, and that was originally the name of the area that Campbeltown itself now actually sits on. So enough of the backstory. What is in the bottle? Well, this is a 12-year-old single malt, could be older. As we know, an Edge Statement refers to the youngest whisky that is in the bottle. It is a mash bill of 100% malted barley. This is bottle code 070322 35. So this is a March 2022 release. Maturation wise in this bottle, this is 70% bourbon matured, 30% sherry matured, and then they're vatted together. I got this in Fairlies in Kilkerran, and I believe at the time, I need to go and check my notes, this is really bad. So it was around £50 a bottle. I will throw up in the infographics what that means in actual dollars and euros as well. So let's get into the nose, shall we? So nose wise, it's a bit dirty, it's a bit sooty, it's salty. There's a little bit of burnt rubber in there. Then there's some of that like smoked German cheese that I would have picked up at Sainsbury's every now and again back home. So slightly lactic, but it gives way then into like sliced green apples. There's garden mint in here as well. There's lemon slices, some salted cashew nuts as well. There's also a touch of copper, there's some minerality, and it's just ever so slightly peated. The peat smoke is definitely just like a hint in the background. Before I go on, I also forgot to say that this is 46% ABV or 92 proof, and as all things are done in Springbank, Kilkerran follows suit, so this is non-chill filtered and natural colour as well. Alright, so the nose is very delicious indeed. Will the palate live up to it? It's interesting on arrival because it's a bit sweet and sour on arrival. So there's ripe green apples, there's peach, there's a bit of like tinned pineapple, there's butterscotch, orange slices. But then that's kind of tempered by a bit of buttermilk and lemon zest and even a touch of pink grapefruit flesh. And then underneath all that sweet sour fruit is that kind of drying soot, and the peat is a little more prominent on the palate than it is in the nose. Then that kind of gives way to a bit of stem ginger and syrup, some seaweed, there's a little like wet pebbles and vanilla. Yeah. And a little bit of minerality again, kind of like a chalkiness to this. The sherried notes don't really push through too much. Maybe towards the back of the palate you start feeling a little bit of like nuttiness, like hazelnuts, like a slight bit of raisins, and maybe a bit of smoked paprika, but this is more bourbon forward, and I think that actually lets the distillate kind of shine, so you're getting that fruity, light fruity nature that it's been designed to highlight. Let's go on to the finish then. Finish wise, it's medium in length. There's a bit of earthy, peaty smokiness in the background, a little bit of like industrial dirt, engine oil, a little bit of spice, but it's just that kind of fruitiness that underpins everything is still there as well. So overall, a pretty delicious dram, I will say. I think even in the nose now I'm starting to get that like tinned pineapple and some custard as well. Anyway, what am I going to score this? As ever, I haven't really had a bad Kilkerran 12, which is a great thing to say. So I'm going to score this 7 out of 10. I don't think this is the most stellar Kilkerran 12-year-old that I've had. I've been very fortunate to try quite a few. But this still maintains the really high standards that Kilkerran have and what the guys at Glengyle Distillery are doing. For me, this is still one of the best core range 12-year-old expressions of Scotch that you can find. Pardon me. And it also has the added benefit of the fact that it had been at least generally more available than anything from Springbank. As we know, Springbank was just a bit crazy during COVID. But I definitely think this goes toe to toe with a Springbank 10-year-old, and oftentimes I would, just from the availability point of view, if you need to scratch your Campbeltown itch, and you can find this, definitely buy it. I'm kind of excited to see that here locally in Florida in Total Wines that and different places that there are the Kilkerran 8-year-old cask strengths and the Kilkerran 12 becoming more readily available as well. Not so much with the Springbank, but that is par for the course. Over here there is probably a little bit of a tax on it. The price for the 8-year-old cask strength and the 12 I think was like $100 to $110. So probably a little pricier than what you would be paying for it back in the UK or Ireland. But it's not so big that I would warn people off buying a bottle. I would 100% encourage them to go and try these. Just fantastic Scotch all around. And also a really good introduction to the Campbeltown style of whiskey if you have not tried it before. Anyway, thank you very much for watching along. Please like, subscribe, comment, please share in the videos. Help me try and grow the channel. Hopefully you've found this informative and entertaining. And until next time, I will say slàinte and have a good night. See you again.